All right, so if this server is going to be pulling data not just from the file system, what is usually called flat files, but also from a database. So you've got two sources of things. They call them flat files because they're just plain old files. Or you've got these databases, right? So if you're going to be pulling from the databases, you need to know at least a little bit about databases. And really we're only going to know a little bit about databases. We're not going to go into any kind of depth. We've set up a pattern there. We're only trying to give you enough to be dangerous, or in this case, enough to get it to work with the programs that we're going to be uploading. So most of the programs and CMS programs and other kinds of web applications that you put on a server are going to need to use a database. So we need to set up a database for them to use and know at least enough about databases to be able to do that and maybe to manipulate things when things go wrong. So we're just going to do that little piece. Databases, people get PhDs in databases. I used to tell my undergraduates if they wanted to make money, they should drop out of school and go and get their license for database administration, their certification. Luckily, not many of them did that, although there was at least one who did go and get his Oracle certification and is probably doing quite well these days. But we're not going to go into that kind of depth. So I'm not, someone who knows anything about databases is going to look at this explanation and go, what are you telling them? But I'm going to tell you it anyway. If you know Excel, and so I'm hoping you know Excel, you know the basics of what a database looks like. So this is a basic Excel file. You see down along the bottom here, I have three, I'm going to call them tables in this case. I don't know what they're called, sheets. They're called sheets in Excel, but we're going to call them tables: friend list, naughty, and nice. Actually, the only one with data is friend list. And friend list has basically 3 lines of data. 1, 2, 3. And each of these lines has 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces or 4 elements of data, right? So this is it. This is basically what a database is. It's nothing scary. There are some little pieces here that we might want to get into someday, like it's a good idea for all of your IDs to be different so that it's easy to find it, and it's a good idea to split this data up into as many different tables as makes sense, so that you can reduce the total number of records you're using. That's all stuff. If you just ignored the last 2 sentences, then good for you, because all you really need to know is that there are databases. So this is the whole file is a database, and inside of databases there are tables with sort of different names, and in each one of those tables you have a set of records that you can either insert or delete or read. So if I wanted to look for example, I could ask what is the favorite ice cream of the person with ID number 2, and it would be pretty easy to find. This is ID number 2, and this is the ice cream that they like, vanilla. And so that is a basic database lookup. Pretty straightforward. So how do we get one of those? I'm going to be showing you, this is an account that I have that I'm going to be using, warrentech.com, for examples. And this is an account that I set up on a host. As it turns out, I'm also the person that set up the account for myself, because I sell hosting services to myself with very little markup. And so I've set myself up with an account. This account uses something called cPanel. I wanted to do it this way because we're using DreamHost for the course, for those of you who are at Quinnipiac. And DreamHost is fine. It's a good shared server, but they use their own panel in order to control the account, and frankly none of you actually have access to that panel, so it doesn't really matter. But I wanted to show you this because cPanel is, I think at this point, the most popular tool that's used for administering a hosting account. So if you get a hosting account, there's a good chance, well, if you're on a big shared host like Bluehost or DreamHost, you might not see this, but if you go onto a smaller host, or if you end up doing some kind of virtual or other kinds of hosting, there's a really good chance you'll be using cPanel. So that's what we're going to use here. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to deal with all of this stuff you can do with your host, but I am going to touch on this section here, which is databases, and I'm going to use the MySQL database wizard, and I'm going to tell them that I want a new database. In this particular one, it says that it's Warrentech
underscore something, just because there are lots of different databases on this server. So it's WarnTech. We'll call it WarnTech. We're going to use this for WordPress, so we'll call it WarnTech WordPress. That's a mouthful. Next step, create a database user. So each database has a username and password, and just to keep things simple for myself, I'm going to call it 7 characters maximum. So we'll just call it WP. And the password will do potato. It says that this is a very weak password, and I'm going to create the user. In this case, I want the user to have all privileges because I need it to be able to set up the WordPress install. And you'll see that it's saying I'm doing this. I only need one user. That's my WP user. It looks like I'm pretty much done. So that's very straightforward. I've created a database. I need those 3 pieces of information. Actually, I need 4 pieces of information. The first piece of information is where I'm going to find the database, the domain name for where the database is located. We'll get to that when we talk about WordPress. In many cases, that's localhost, and in this case, it's localhost. But we'll hold that aside for a second. I need the name of the database, so I should have written that down. I believe that it is WarnTech_WordPress. And then I need the username, which is WP in this case, and I need the password, which is potato. Okay, so I've got everything I need there. I'm going to switch back over to a different account. This is the account for the www.ti.me, www time that we're hosting. And we're going to go down to something called PHPMyAdmin. PHPMyAdmin allows you to get kind of a graphical interface and look and see what is in the database server. So it gives me access here, and you'll see along the left-hand side are each of the databases on this server. If you have an information schema, you should leave that alone. But I've got this one, www time for WordPress. So this is the one that I set up for WordPress on this particular server. So if I click on that, you'll see that over on the left-hand side are the tables. By default, WordPress sets up a bunch of tables. These are where the comments meta information are. This is where the comments are. You probably don't know what all those things are. I probably don't know what all those things are, although I can certainly guess that the users are a list of users, and the posts, for example, are a list of posts. So let's take a look at comments as an example. If I click on comments, it gives me a layout of, and usually I might have to click on browse to see this. It gives me the first 30 rows of this database. So in this database, there's a comment ID and a comment post ID. There's the author of the comment. So there's a bunch of these that are obviously spam authors. There's a bunch of information here. There's the actual comment itself. This all looks like gobbledygook because it's spammers. Here's some actual real comments that are in that category. A bunch of stuff that we don't really need to know about, but it gives you an idea. So, as I said, when it comes to WordPress, when you come and see the www time blog, it goes and you pull up a particular post and want to look at the comments, it goes to this database and pulls this data in. Now, we can actually manipulate this directly. If I wanted to change one of the comments, I could do it here. If I wanted to delete one of the comments, I could do it here. But that's usually an emergency measure. So this is kind of, on expensive watches, you can see the workings of the watch. This is a little bit like that. So it gives you a chance to see what's going on under the cover. We'll come back to databases later. For now, this is all you need to know, is how to set up a database and maybe how to look at it for later on. All right, see you next time.